Hello, how are you doing, everyone? This is Dr. Will, and welcome to another episode of the Dr. Will Show. We are here today with author, uh, consultant, ed tech, all around good one, Angela Watson. Welcome, Angela. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Excellent, excellent. So again, I like to always start my shows off the same way. So for those who will go to my blog and will see, oh, this is with Angela Watson. Who is Angela Watson? Um, Tell everyone who you are.
So I was a classroom teacher for 11 years, and then in 2009 I made the transition into educational consulting. So I've done math and literacy coaching, I do instructional technology coaching now, and then I do presentations for schools on creating passionate teachers and passionate learners.
Awesome, awesome. And what okay, first of all, were you writing while you were still in the classroom? And if not, what made you make that transition?
Yeah, so my first book I published when I was still in the classroom. That was in 2008, and it's called The Cornerstone, Classroom Management that Makes Teaching More Effective, Efficient, and Enjoyable. So it was just sharing different strategies from my classroom, pictures from my classroom, different routines and procedures I used, how I stayed organized, all those kinds of things. And then from that, I started doing speaking locally in my area. I was down in South Florida at the time, and things kind of branched out from there. And then the other two books that I published since I left the classroom. It was very difficult to be a full-time teacher and give 100% to my students and try to do the blogging and the book promotion and the writing. It was a really big challenge. So I have a lot of admiration for people who are able to do all of those things concurrently and do them well.
Okay, okay. So what are you most passionate about when you write? What so is your focus? What motivates you, and how do you see your writing contributing to teachers becoming better?
So I feel like there are a lot of experts out there who are telling teachers how to teach. And that's really the last thing that they need is someone coming in from the outside who doesn't know their teaching situation, doesn't know their students, telling them what to do. So what I always advocate for is just empowering teachers to find a way that fits their personality, fits their teaching style, fits their students' needs and the needs of their school community that they're serving. And just present lots of different possibilities. It's very rare that I'll say, okay, this is the way things need to be done. I'll say, okay, so here's the problem, let's talk about some possible solutions. Or here are a couple different ideas for ways that we can try to do X, Y, and Z. And then I'll just toss out things that worked for me and things that I've seen in the classrooms that I'm coaching in, things that I've heard about on Twitter, that I've seen on other people's blogs, and just try to present the possibilities so that teachers can have some room to be creative and to really take the lead in their classroom and not feel quite so boxed in.
Okay, okay. So next now you're writing, you are blogging, you actually blog a lot. I wish that I could do that. I actually do more podcasts than I do actual writing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you're reaching people, you're making a following. What made you? And I want to be sure I'm the true. I have my information correct. But what made you say it's time for me to be my own publisher? Did you find that you needed it to have sort of more control over your voice, or did you not uh, e- even consider working with the on Proof Rocks or Solution Tree, etc.?
Um, my thought was initially I had wanted to self-publish because A, I wanted control of my book. B, I didn't want the middleman. I felt like a traditional publisher really isn't going to do anything to promote the book. It's really up to the author to do that. And by the time I published my first book, I'd already started my website 6 years before that. So I already had a good following, and I had readers who trusted me and that I knew would buy from me and would want to know what I had to say. They were the ones encouraging me to write the book. So I just didn't feel the need to do the traditional publishing route. But I also didn't want to just self-print. And I think there is a difference between self-printing and self-publishing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I first did this, there were a lot less options for self-printing. It's a better process now. It's cheaper, easier. There are a lot more options out there. But at that time in 2008, it was kind of limited, and I felt like I wanted the credibility of having an actual publishing company, and I also wanted the ability to later on down the line be able to publish other people's books as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I started my own publishing company called Ducey's Press and Educational Services. So under that one umbrella, I was able to publish my books and then also do speaking and PD and stuff around the books that I had published.
Okay, okay. And now you get me to that whole thing of I am thinking when you look at things are changing, the industry is changing quite much, particularly when you look at ebooks and Amazon, etc. When you are looking to write a book, and let's say maybe you have 3 or 4 down on the horizon, are you saying what is your strategy for how the book will be distributed? Do you say maybe 10,000 copies will be in print and actually go to bookstores, etc., or I'm going to do this for the Kindle, or I'm going to do this where it can be downloaded as a PDF, etc.? What goes through your mind in saying this is how I want people to gain access to the book?
Everything that I do for the books is all online. All the marketing, all the connections, everything is done on the internet. I've never seen a way to do it. I've never seen a reason to do it any other way. That seems to be the most effective way to reach people, and it's also the cheapest way. I mean, I've had to pay for very few promotions over the years. I'll give away copies of my books, but I don't advertise. I don't do things like that typically. And starting around 2010, I started to see the tide turn in terms of ebooks, and the ebooks started to outsell the print copies. Now it's not even close. I would say I sell 3 ebooks for every print copy. Um, and, and that's fantastic for me. I get a higher profit margin, and it saves the reader money because, why pay $30 for something when you only have to pay 10 and get the exact same information? So I see ebooks as a win-win. So anything that I write, I know automatically I'm going to have it professionally converted to EPUB format, which is for the Barnes & Noble Nook, and I think there's some other devices that use that. They'll also make a nice PDF, and they'll also do the Kindle version. So I have all that done professionally, so it's tested, and I know there's no errors, and then I can easily upload all that to Amazon and know that it's a high-quality piece.
Nice, nice. It's fantastic because it was interesting because I've been following you a while on Twitter,
Yeah, we have.
but recently been able to uh, connect with you at ISTE and to be able to sort of uh, talk about books, publishing, and consulting. Um, how have you been able to leverage your books for consulting, and do you think people view you differently because you come with this already made content and expertise?
I think it does lend credibility to say that you've written a book. I'm finding now that pretty much everyone in my PLN at this point is working on a book or has published a book. It's becoming a lot more common than I think it used to be, but it does lend some air of authority, and I think it also shows that you have a lot to say about a topic. It's not, actually, I wouldn't say it's very easy to write a blog post, but it's a lot easier to write a 1,000-word blog post than it is to write a 20,000-page book about something, and to have that professionally edited and really stick through that and make it into something that is a useful resource for teachers. So I do think that it adds credibility. I do think that it increases the amount that I'm able to charge for speaking fees. I think it gives me more opportunities for speaking. And the other nice thing is that when I go to speak, then I have more resources to follow up for teachers. So I can say, if you like this, I've written more about it here. And then that also works conversely. Sometimes they'll find the book first, and then they'll book me to come speak at their school. So it all kind of works together, and it's nice to have different formats for teachers and for schools to be able to get the information that they need.
Okay, okay. So what is your writing process like? Because I should have asked you that earlier, but like I said, you since coming back from ISTE, you've posted more posts that I probably have personally written, I don't know, past 4 months. Uh, and I go like, wow, she just keeps writing. Um, wh- can you physically just say, I want to write and sit down and make it happen, or do you, or must inspiration hit you in order for that to happen?
I definitely have to be inspired. Definitely. I feel like, the creative process is not something that I can just, call into existence. I have to really surround myself with inspiring influences. I have to be reading things, listening to podcasts, watching things on television, boxing with people, being on Facebook and Twitter with inspiring people, things that are constantly giving me ideas and pushing me. That helps a lot. And the other thing that I have to do is have a lot of different projects going on. So one day I may feel like I can write a blog post, another day I can work on a book, another day I can, create some other sort of resource. It takes a while for me to finish a book for that reason. The one that I'm working on right now has been three-fourths done for several months now, and I'm just not mentally, I'm not there to finish it. I guess some other things need to happen, somehow in my creative process before that all comes together. So I'm just letting that be, and I'm focusing on the blogging, and I just created a webinar series last week. So I've had other things that I'm working on. So I try to push through that kind of writer's block and, try to use that creative outlet in some other kind of way. But there are certain days where I'm like, this is just not happening. There's nothing that there's nothing productive is going to come from this. Close the computer, Angela. Go do something else. Go get some fresh air, get some exercise. Go do something fun, and come back and try again the next day.
Awesome, awesome. So for those teachers who will hopefully watch this podcast and say to themselves, uh, I'm now inspired. Like I've been thinking about writing, but now I'm ready to take that step. What advice do you have for them?
The most important thing is to write the book, because I hear from a lot of people who the idea is still, they have the seed of the idea, but they haven't done the work for it yet, and that's the hardest part. I feel like everyone has a book inside of them, and it's just a matter of who is the person who's actually going to stick to it and go through and do that whole process. So the writing is the hardest part. Publishing is easy in 2014. It's not a hard process anymore like it used to be. I don't think you have to worry about, writing to what a publisher would want. Write the book that's in your heart and write your message to the world and focus on getting that out. And then once that's done, then there are so many different possibilities. Then you can start thinking about who you'd like to edit it, who you'd like to endorse it, who's going to do the cover design, and those kind of things. But don't get bogged down in that in the creation process, because it can start to feel overwhelming. And I promise you, the writing is the hardest part. Everything else is something is just going to seem so much easier in comparison. And it's a relatively quick process. Once a book is done, I mean, it could be online, ready for sale in 48 hours. That part is a really quick process. So focus on the writing and focus on what is it that you want to say to the world. How do you want to transform education? And get those ideas out there.
Wow, wow. Okay, so now the last question I want to touch upon, and this is something you've sort of mentioned about, okay, what I do is online. How important is having a social media presence to you as a writer and uh, a publisher? Is it uh, something where someone may say, well, I do it because I hear it's something I need to do, or do you find it to be sort of absolutely necessary if one wants to reach people and build their audience?
Well, I think a lot of people probably won't like this answer, but it is definitely necessary. And I think it's something that you have to love doing because it's something that you got to do for the rest of your life. As long as you want to be relevant in the education community, you've got to be continually putting new ideas out there and interacting with people and sharing their ideas. And um, you've got to have a passion for it. Now, you don't have to be on all the platforms. You don't have to do Twitter and Facebook and Pinterest and G+. You can just pick a couple, pick one or two to start and build your presence from there. Start with what you're comfortable with, but social media is absolutely where it's at in terms of getting new readers. And people can tell if you're just there to promote yourself or if you're really there to build a community and to find like-minded educators and to learn from other people and promote them too, not just yourself. So it's really important if someone is writing a book and they're thinking about publishing, start building that community now because that's your platform. And then when your book is ready, then you already have your audience, and they're ready for you at that point. But it's going to be up to you to promote your book, and that's true whether you self-publish, whether you self-print, whether you go with a traditional publisher. You are the person who cares about your book more than anyone else. So you have to be the one to really get that word out there and be willing to, be constantly looking for opportunities to share that work with other people. So you really are your number one promoter, and a lot of writers don't like that. That's not a fun part of it for a lot of people. But if you look at it in terms of really serving the education community and helping teachers, it becomes a lot more fun because that's why you're writing the book to begin with, because there's a part of you that really enjoys sharing your experiences with others. So tap into that, and don't worry about yourself, don't worry about your numbers, don't worry about the money. Stay focused on just sharing that high quality content with other people, and you'll draw like-minded educators to you.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you again, Angela, for being a guest on the Dr. Will Show. Uh, Everyone, as always, will be posted up on the blog, as well as her bio and links to what's going on with how you can reach her and everything. And thanks for watching another episode, everyone. Thank you, Angela.
Thank you.